Welcome to a very special episode of the Popcorn Confessional. We're fresh out of Scream Month. Scream 6 has dropped, and we have a very special guest that is with Jen and I today. So, we're talking about the OG Ghostface himself, Lee Waddell. So, if you don't know, we're talking Terminator, we're talking Spider-Man, Batman Returns, X-Men First Class, probably one of the best of the X-Men movies. Face Off. He's been in movies doing the hard work and grind behind the camera that you don't always get to see. So we're gonna have him join us. Hey, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it, and it's always I love doing podcasts, and we always have a great time with these.
Yeah, we had the opportunity to meet you at Monster Mania last year, so it was great to see you out there.
Right.
Before we dive into any questions, so the con scene, is that something that you're actively doing?
It is. I've jumped into that full bore. I've been going at it a little over a year, maybe a couple years, and it's a lot of fun. I really like interacting with the fans. It's all not just Scream fans, Scream Nation, but the horror fans in general. Great people, great people. I mean, they're just so hardcore and so passionate and so fun. I really love going to those cons for that. It keeps me in touch with everybody, and it's a super fun time. I really appreciate doing those.
Do you have anything that's coming up soon, or that the people can check you out at?
Uh, Not that's officially inked yet, so I can't. The promoters don't want me to sit there and let the cat out of the bag before they launch because that's their business. So I can't say much until obviously keep up with me on Instagram and my website because it has all my stuff that's been officially announced. Busy summer. Right now, we just finished up. I'm still in Southern California, and we just finished up a little quick signing out here. Going to hang out here till first part of April. Blast on back home after that, and then see what happens. But June, July, August, I'm super busy.
Ah, great, fantastic. So we'll drop the link down to your Instagram site in the video. It'll pop up as we're talking about it. It'll be in the description along with your website information as well.
Appreciate it.
All right, so let's dive into some questions. We're going to do this a little differently. We have a series of subscriber questions that we're going to save to the end. There are just going to be some quick hits that we'll toss out there, and we'll dive into some other stuff first.
All right, let's do it.
So, what led you to becoming a stuntman? Were you like a daredevil prior to getting into the industry?
Yeah, so after I got out of high school, I was doing industrial arts. I was still living out in LA at that time, and I've always been kind of attracted to film. I grew up on old black and white horror, black and white movies, and I loved filming the process. But yeah, there's this element of adrenaline that I kind of got on for a while. So after I got out of high school, I was either going to go in the Army, go play Army for a while, or go make movies. And I decided to make movies, and really because I had a better paycheck. So either one would have been a great option for me.
Awesome. Now, I would imagine becoming a stuntman is a little bit different than becoming an actor. So how did you break into the business, and what advice would you give anybody else that would be looking to do the same thing?
So back in my era, which is, mid 80s, early 80s, mid 80s, and it still holds to today, is you got to get out there and you just got to flat out hustle those stunt coordinators. You got to get on the set, press the flesh, meet them, maybe have your buddy that might know them bring you into the fold, and it's still word of mouth and it's still direct contact. And there's no easy way to do it. I mean, it's just a flat out hustle. I mean, I worked 3 jobs, including nights, just so during the day I could go get on all the studio lots and get on the sets and meet all the stunt coordinators and stunt guys and just make inroads. And there's no easy process about it. You got to be able to grind and hustle, and you better have a real thick hide because you have a lot of rejection, a lot of people talking down to you. It's a tough road. Super rewarding once you get there, But I always joke that I was a 10-year overnight success.
Yeah, people tend to forget that, it does take a lot of effort in anything that you're doing just to get somewhere. It's just not an overnight sensation. That's probably something that's very rare.
Yeah, I would say so. And even when you're born into it, yeah, you might have doors open for you, but you still got to pay some dues, and you still got to earn your way. But yeah, it's super rewarding, and at the same time, and I say it tongue in cheek, but it's the only industry that eats its own young. It's a tough racket.
Yeah.
Now, is there a dream role or stunt that you'd want to do?
Not anymore. Not anymore. I like hanging out here. Like I've been in Southern California. We just wrapped up. It's been terrible weather out here, as you guys know. I've been
Oh yeah.
I've been hanging out, drinking coffee and drinking tea and getting scruffy. I like the chapter. So at this point in my life, I'd like to go back and make some movies with some friends that are still in business and do fun stuff like let's go have a fight, or let's go play with some cars, or something like that. But I don't want to do any of that big heavy stuff where you could get racked, because I don't want to do that to my body anymore. Those days are past.
Yeah. Just real quick, with you saying that is, so what kind of injuries may have you suffered from some of these stunts that you've had?
I was pretty fortunate in my career to stay like major injury free. I had one or two that really nothing was broke, but it stretched me out. I had huge amounts of soft tissue damage, and I've probably had a few. I separated up one whole side of my sternum on a stunt, and broken ribs and stuff like that. And that just you get broken ribs playing football, so that's not to me. That's not a big deal. To some people, it's catastrophic. To me, just because I was so active and still am to some degree. But anybody that has an active lifestyle, I don't care if they're running, mountain bike, and volleyball, you're going to get tore up.
Yeah.
It just comes with the turf of being an active human being. So, but yeah, as far as big stunts, I got out of it relatively unscathed. There was a couple that stretched me out really good, and there's probably a couple of times I probably should have gone to the doctor, and I didn't, because I was old school. I just had to give me some ice. See you on Monday. Let's go.
All right, so Scream was not your first horror movie. You've been in Nightmare on Elm Street, you've been in Shocker, you've been People Under the Stairs.
Yeah.
So you're also officially part of the MCU now, since Spider-Man 2002 has been added into that universe.
Yeah.
So you've worked at. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I was just thinking about that the other day under the whole Marvel, comics thing. Yeah, it's a cool universe to be in.
Now, you've been in action, you've been in horror, you've been in family movies. What's your favorite genre?
I would say, horror's always fun. There's never really too much heavy duty stunts in horror. I really liked when I was on like Jurassic Park, big budget, big, huge stunts, big, all the way across the board. So I really enjoyed that. And I like features when they have big money and big stunts, and just big stuff, because you have the time and the money to do it right and really test it and get it dialed in, and you just are doing some crazy stunts. I like that big stuff. The flip side is TV is fun because of the pace, right? You just go in, bang it out, and you're done in a day, sometimes 2 days at the most. You're on to the next stunt or sequence, or even the next part of the next episode. So I like the pace of TV, but I love the big money, big stunts of a feature.
Nice. Our one friend that I went to high school with, he's into stunts, and he does a lot of TV stuff too.
Yeah, it's fun because you can get in there and get out of there and go home at night, and you work some long days, but not like when you get on a big feature on location. Those are 16, 18-hour days a lot of times.
Yeah.
Since you were the first Ghostface, having killed Casey Becker and Principal Himbry, you set the stage for everyone who came after you in the role. How did you prepare for the role, and were there any little quirks you added to the character that live on today?
Good question. So when we did Scream 1, And I've done a bunch of Wes Craven movies because his right hand man for 20 plus years was Tony Caesar, second unit director, stunt coordinator. Fantastic guy, iconic stunt coordinator, stunt man. I mean, if you look at his resume, it's all the big stuff, big huge stuff. Um, so Tony brought me in on it, and I'd worked with Wes a bunch, and we had the ability on that particular film to shoot it in sequence, which is very super rare, right? Very seldom do you get to pick up the script and go to page one, day one, and get to shoot that in order. But it just so happened that's what we were doing on that particular piece of the film. So Wes and I and Tony sat down, and I was in the wardrobe. I didn't have the mask on yet, and we were sitting inside the house. And I go, Wes, tell me about what's this character? What is this, right? He goes, he moves like a phantom. I'm like, okay, and I could take that and run with it. That was his major direction, and it wasn't too much tweaking past that. He goes, because that was one of my direct questions, like, well, how's this guy move? What's his motivation and stuff like that? He's a killer and stuff like that. And he goes, he moves like a phantom. So I really took that to heart. And then if you take a look at how I move, in one, it's very distinct and quick and aggressive and pop, pop, pop. And especially like when I'm running through the house, it's got a lot of intention behind how I move. And then that kind of, in my opinion, really got kind of left by the wayside by about, you might have caught a glimpse of it in the back end of 2, but really 3, 4, and 5 got away from it. And by the time, even though there's certain aspects of all those movies I liked, Ghostface, the character that Wes and I and Tony developed and ran with for 2 films, got watered down. And by the time 4 hit and even 5, he would be tripping over his shoelaces. It really made him into like a Keystone Cop.
Yeah. Now that you say it and you think about it, yeah, the swiftness of how you moved in that first film is very noticeable. And it's kind of lacking a little bit in the last several films.
In my opinion, it is. Wes had a little bit of style. Wes was Wes, so he shot it his way, and he had his own style of shooting. But he would do these real subtle tricks. He would slow down the film, like in key things. Like there's a real good scene where I killed the principal, Henry Winkler, right? The Fonz. I killed the Fonz, which was one of the few times in my career that I ever got fanned. It was pretty funny. But when you see me come out from behind this closed door, and it's real subtle, but if you watch the wardrobe, the way the wardrobe's moving, you see that it's in slow motion. So he actually shot that scene a little bit in slow motion. So when you go back and watch it again, watch that scene, and it's actually, you push more frames back then. You push more frames per second, you get the slow motion. But so he did that. It was very subtle. Unless you look for it, unless you know it, or your eyes trained to it, you don't realize it. So next time you guys watch that scene, you go in there like, oh yeah, you'll see where the wardrobe slows down just a tick. And it gives just that little phantom-ish tweak. It's really a cool little touch that most people don't know it's in there.
Yeah, I'm surprised I have never picked up on that. So now I'm definitely going to be looking forward to that.
Yeah, you'll go back and then like, oh yeah, totally, you can see it. Yeah.
Now, Roger Jackson said on the first night of shooting, he was underneath, crouched down under the window, talking to Drew Barrymore on the phone in the rain. And they quickly had changed that. They moved him into a booth or an inside room after that first day of shooting. Now, did you encounter any difficulties during shooting?
No, it was cold and wet, which, oh well. I mean, it is what it is. It's been raining. We're up in Central California. It's if you ever see any of the behind the scenes footage, everybody's in big old parkas and everything, and I'm in wardrobe, which was actually pretty warm, really, because of those shrouds. I don't know if you've ever put those screen masks on and actually look through them, but they get warm very quickly. And Drew Barrymore, she's running around in a pair of jeans and a sweater. I mean, she's freezing her tail off. So that's just shooting. That comes with shooting nights or any environment. That's no big deal. At least for me, it's not. Some people don't tolerate it, but I was just a stunt man doing my job. My niece could have been shivering. I wouldn't have said anything.
Before we get to some of our subscriber questions, you had a long working relationship with Wes Craven, having worked on several of his films. Do you have any stories about him you can share from the set of any of the films you worked on?
So nothing that pops out of mind directly. I think one time Wes and I were sitting on the set, and he was on the front page of the National Enquirer. Right? Remember the Enquirer, that old raggy newspaper piece thing? I think he was on the front page of that, and he might have been going through a lawsuit at the same time. And he said something to the effect of like, you hadn't arrived in Hollywood until you're on the Enquirer getting sued or something like that. And that was the kind of stuff, his humor was pretty dry. I mean, he would say stuff on Monday and I'd laugh on Friday. And very intelligent man. I mean, a lot of people don't realize that he was a professor. I mean, very articulate, very knowledgeable, very smart guy. And very relaxed. He never, out of all the years I was around him, never saw him throw a director's, tantrum. Didn't happen.
Yeah, he had some sort of Zen-like
Mm-hmm.
charisma about him that even like it bled off the screen when you see him in interviews.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he has that real. That was his vibe, man. He was always. It wasn't. Some people mistook it as like control, something like that. But he was always articulate. He always had that pause. He would think before he would speak. I enjoyed his company. I learned a lot from him.
In Scream 2, probably, and I can't rack my brain, even with this latest film that's come out, is probably one of the biggest stunt scenes that were out there. So the scene where you're driving the cop car and you drive it into the K-rail, I don't think anything matches like that inside of the entire franchise. It's also probably one of the most suspenseful scenes that's in the entire franchise as well. What can you tell us about that scene?
That was a long, hard night. I remember those nights. It started off, if you remember, so they brought me in to come back into character and do that whole sequence. So we shot it over several nights. But it started with putting my hand through the window, grabbing that guy out, and doing that fight. So take one on that, the glass didn't break, and my hand did. And then, so we got through take two, and then there's a scene in there where I'm supposed to pitch the car sideways, and it like comes skidding, grinding down the curb in mailboxes. And I couldn't generate, we were kind of a little bit tight, so I couldn't generate the speed needed with that particular car to get it to break loose, to kind of skid and drift. I just couldn't get it there hard enough. It's an old Caprice or whatever that cop car was. It was piled that it turned into a Ferrari for some reason. And then, so the effects guys helped me out on that one. They put some hits down the side, saved me on that one. And then we went into the sequence where we run into the K-rail. That was just an abrupt stop. And it doesn't look, I hit that thing at about 26, 27 miles per hour. It doesn't look that fast, but it was actually a pretty good clip for when we hit it. And then we got into the part of it where Nev crawls out over me. And Wes and Nev were in sync that night, man. That was a great scene, right? When she's crawling, I mean, between her and Wes and the way he cut, I mean, they were, at this point, you could have put a dummy in there, or at least a stuffed one instead of a live one. And, and Nev was a sweetheart. She's sitting there trying to crawl out for me. So now I'm tired, I'm beat up, I'm sore. We've been shooting all night, and I'm just like, no, get out the car. Just get out the car, step on me. Just try not to step on me, right? Because I'm laying there like this, and she did. She stepped on me. And so, great scene though. I didn't realize how suspenseful and how well done that scene was until I watched it again about 2 years ago. That was really cool to go back and watch again, because I forgot how just intense that scene was.
Yeah, I honestly think it's probably one of the best scenes in the entire film. Maybe second to it is the chase scene in the college with Dewey and Gail getting chased.
Yeah, I like it when she's in the, like, I think it was the sound room or one of the studio rooms would go. So that was a good scene.
So subscriber questions, what do we have?
So we have from SG Stanley. Are chase scenes hard in the costume, and any bloopers of the mask falling off due to tripping or falling?
Yeah, those are great questions. Yes, moving in the costume / wardrobe, robe, whatever you want to call that thing, is not fun. I learned very quickly, first night of shooting, how to manipulate that robe so it wouldn't, as the old stunt guys used to say, it wouldn't give you a toe tap, which was an old horse trick that the guys used to do with horses way back in the day, is they basically put a rope on the front of those horses, they just run them and they just trip them. So it's called a toe tap, which is affectionately what I called that robe the first time I put it on and tried to run or walk in that thing. So I figured out how to get around that. And then mask actually fit really pretty snug, but putting one of these silly things on is like looking through tubes. I mean, you can't see. And it makes hitting your mark and timing very difficult, especially when you start slinging knives around and trying to hit your mark on people. It's not easy.
Yeah, that's got to be tough. Now, Gothic Ganja Goddess has asked, which kill as Ghostface is your favorite?
So Triple G, good question. So I think I have credit for 5. I think that's what everybody tells me, because obviously, if you took it in chronological order, I whack her boyfriend, though you don't get to see that per se. So that's just the kind of way of his guts hanging out. I think killing Casey was probably the best because of the intensity of it, right? Because Wes undercranks, I'm chasing her, and Wes makes it go into slow motion, which makes it take forever, and I'm closing on her. It's like a lion on a gazelle. It's just, that really registered with the audience. And then when she's trying to talk on the phone, she can't speak, or slit her throat.
Yeah.
Yeah, and people are just like, it was cringeworthy because you want her to win, and there's just no way. So I like that, and that was a whole scene to do that. But I think I like that aspect of it because Wes really screwed with the audience so well.
So the next question was from Rick, and you kind of already answered this. He said, "How do you see out of that thing? I'm sure peripheral vision is totally out of the question."
No, you don't have peripheral vision because when you put these masks on, and a lot of people cosplay them, and a lot of people own them, and they put them on. Anybody that has one, you can stick it on there, and you can see what you have to work with. It's all out front, so you don't have any peripheral vision, and so it's difficult if you have to hit anything out. If it's not right in front of you, you got to kind of have that sixth sense where you know where that mark might be. That might be out here, the peripheral side of your vision. Does that make sense?
All right, we have Derek Everett from the Facebook group Scream, What's Your Favorite Scary Movie? He wants to know, how fun is it actually to be Ghostface and chase characters?
So back in the day, you got to remember, I'm just a working stunt guy, right? So all I want to do is do a great job, for Wes and Tony Caesar, the stunt coordinator, second unit director. So I want to hit my marks and do the one take. The only drive I had on stunts per se when I was filming this is I didn't want to be the guy we had to do take 2 on or take 3. I wanted it to be somebody else. Like if I did my job and camera didn't catch it or a light fluttered, that's on something else. But I wanted to do my stuff perfectly. So I was very focused. And then making movies is fun, but I was very focused on the job on hand. I always am. Even though I might be laughing through it, I want to do it and take 1.
From Marcus McGill, he wants to know, is that your voice we hear whenever we hear Ghostface grunting in action, or is it the actors doing it? He said sometimes in the first film it sounds like Lillard.
Yeah, that was in post. That was done in post, and I don't know if that was Roger that they put back in there to do those little nuances, or was it because the actors, with the exception of like one scene where they do rip his mask off to expose, I think it was good. They were never in. Mm-hmm. They were never in the wardrobe. It was always the stunt guy. Mm-hmm. So that was put in post.
Yeah, that would explain why it always sounds the same throughout the entire franchise then.
Mm-hmm.
So that is all of our questions. So once again, we're not going to wrap up just yet, but I want to make sure that we understand that go to his Instagram page. Link is going to be in the description. It's going to be displayed here as well. Go to the website. This way you can keep track of upcoming appearances and go meet him yourself. He is great to meet in person. Like I said, we met him at Monster Mania last year. Hopefully, too, you get to see him in a Q&A, a part of with the other cast, because there's a lot of great stories that we heard during that Q&A as well.
Absolutely. I like doing those big forums. Those are a lot of fun because people come up with these great questions, just like you guys had here tonight. Fantastic stuff.
Yeah. Anything that you want to say in closing?
No, I just, I'm super humbled and blessed to be doing this. If I knew 25, 30 years ago that Scream was going to be what it is today, I would have backed the car up and stolen all the masks. So, I'm just happy and, like I said, super blessed to be a part of it now. And I was off and retired and doing other things in my world, and then all of a sudden this huge opportunity comes to me, and I'm having fun with it. The people are fantastic, and getting to travel around and just meet some great fans and keep the genre alive in the franchise. We just had number 6 come out, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm going to hijack your podcast real quick. You guys both saw it?
Yes.
Right? It's been out for weeks, so we don't have to worry about spoilers. If they hadn't seen it by now, too bad. All right? All right, give me, what did you think? Talk to me.
So the reveal on the killers was disappointing. I feel like they're getting less exciting as we go along.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, same thing. It didn't feel the same. I know Kevin Williamson said it's like, oh, this feels like a fresh start. I can feel it being a fresh shot, but you missed the wide shots that Wes Craven had in there. Everything was a lot more focused on the characters. Where in a Scream movie, right, anybody can be the killer. So the wide shots always like, oh, what about that person? What about that person? So that was kind of missing in there. And then I think they went a little overboard with Easter eggs. Like we just filmed today, and which will already be on the channel, 180 Easter eggs that they dropped into the film. So a lot of fan service. So I think they could have changed that up a little bit.
All right, fair enough. For me, I enjoyed it for what it was. It was entertaining. And then just because I hatched this character with Wes, 27 years ago, I liked how Ghostface moved in this film again. Not nearly the idiot that he was in previous. And he was definitely had a little bit more intention and aggression and swiftness in the way he moved. And there's actually a couple of seasons that really demonstrated that. So I appreciated that. Did not buy it whatsoever. Didn't buy it. You don't get to be turned into, you don't get to have a Benihana done to you like that and then end up like sitting up in the hospital getting carted off the ambulance. No.
Yeah.
So they wrapped it up pretty and put a bow on it. So number 7's already greenlit, and we know that. You can see where number 7's going to take off. But I'm like, nah, there should have been some extra kills in there because why they came walking out, like they have a flesh wound when their guts should be spilled. I didn't buy that.
Yeah, the one character ate a knife.
Yeah.
We figured he would be paralyzed.
Right? So, but I took it for what it's worth, and I really enjoyed it. It's a fun movie. It's definitely in the same vein. For me, personally, like I said, I like how Ghostface moves in this one.
Yeah, that's the one thing I do appreciate about the Radio Silence guys. Like with the last movie and this movie, Ghostface is scary again. He wasn't really scary in 4 and 3, so he's actually intimidating again.
Yeah, and I don't know if they because in 5 he was still an idiot in my opinion, right?
Yeah, a lot of the parts, yeah.
But he was still bumbling in 5, right? So apparently they listened to me. Apparently they listened to me, and he has an edge back, and I like how he moves in 6. So I hope that carries over and actually gets a little bit even more focused for Ghostface in number 7.
Yeah, and it's probably the better, or if not the best franchise of all the slashers. because it hasn't gotten corny or a parody of itself yet.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first time that a film had really taken hot shots and made fun of the film itself, or the film within the film, right? There's a lot of first on that movie that people don't realize. But actually, when you look at the lineage of making horror movies, it goes really back to Scream 1. They broke a lot of new ground with that particular film.
Yeah, Scream. You were part of Nightmare on Elm Street. They did the same thing, broke a lot of new ground with that too, with the the room flipping upside down, the arm stretching in the alleyway. A lot of that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, the rotating room was such a pain. The thing was such a pain, because later on, as the effects got better and better, because I was off on another film. I can't remember. It was one of the outer space films. The rotating, they had almost a 1-to-1 ratio of the space station, and it was a full rotating mass. And man, they had that thing. It was smooth and beautiful as compared to this cable pile that we used to have all the way back there on Nightmare. That was just, it was such a pain in the butt. It got the job done. It looked really cool.
Yeah. If you don't mind me asking, what stunts did you perform in Nightmare on Elm Street?
So I was Tony's rigging guy on that. We didn't have a lot of rigging, but I was his right-hand man. And then things got serious when we did the fire burn, right? Remember when Freddy goes up the stairs on fire and all that?
Yeah.
And so Tony brought me in specifically. I've been on the film for a couple of weeks, but he brought me in specifically to do that stuff with him, because Tony is the one who taught me fire. And Tony's one of, at that time, and he still is, he was one of the top fire guys in the industry. He probably has more burn time. By that I mean being on fire than just about anybody else.
Wow.
He did all the big ones. That's why if you ever look at him, you need to have him on your podcast, because he did like Stay Puft, Marshmallow Man on fire. He did the Thing, right? Remember?
Wow.
That big old burn scene on that. I mean, he's done hundreds of them. That was one of his specialties. Unfortunately for me, he's the one who taught me, so I had a really good teacher in fire. So we did the fire burn sequence for Nightmare 1, and then he brought me in to set him up on that. And here's the behind the scenes on that one. So it happens often that when you do fire, it's one of those things where when it goes right, it's great. But when it goes bad, it gets a hold of you really fast. So you don't have a big window on it. And one of the things we try to do is once we have everything's lit, ready to roll, and then they wait for us, right? Because you don't want to rush stunts. I don't care how small, how big, you're not going to rush it. But especially with fire. So everything's supposed to be lit and dialed in, and you're supposed to do the stunt. So everything goes to plan, everything's lit, everything's dialed. Okay, let's go. And my job is to fuel him down, right? He has a special effects igniter, so that pushes the button, they send him up, get the thing lit. And then my job is to put him out. And so we're on stage, and everything comes together. He's underneath the staircase, and I've already fueled him. It's not gasoline, but the gas is on him. We're ready to go. And I hear a camera say, "Wait a second." And I'm like, "No, man, we can't wait a second. It's go time." And they're like, "All right, hang on, wait." And I'm like, I gave about 3 seconds, and I turned around and started barking, And about 10 seconds later, they finally get it together. Wes yells action, get off the race. Now, in the movie, if you go back, and they edited a little bit of it out, but if you go back and watch Nightmare 1, when Tony first gets ignited, he blows up. So go back and watch the film, and you watch him when he first goes up, you see this poof, and he explodes. And what had happened, because in that little nanosecond of compressed time, that 10, 15 second window, the fumes had started to accumulate because he was underneath the staircase. And so now so this is all part of the safety briefing. This is why we got to go. But when you see him on film, right when he ignites, you see that puff. So go back and watch it when you finish, and you're like, okay, I got to go see that. And you'll see this small explosion occur. That's because we had fumes starting to kind of be trapped and surround him. So then he goes, boom, he's off to the races. I'm like, well, he's definitely lit on fire now. So he comes up, hits his mark, hits his next mark, goes up the stairs. When he gets up to the top of the stairs, the door opens and it's supposed to hit him and he's supposed to fall down there, right? Fall down the stairs. So he's feeling good. He's in the zone, goes up, gets hit, falls down the stairs. That was supposed to be the cut. But what happens is Tony is such an innovator. He hits the bottom and he's still feeling good. He's still within his envelope where nothing's getting hot. He starts going up the stairs a few steps and then he lays down and passes out. Well, that whole little tail end was not scripted. And I'm the guy with the fire extinguisher. And I'm like, maybe he got hit for real on the door and he's that silly, he doesn't know where he is. So finally he lays down and I'm like, okay, we're done, regardless of what happens. And I started hosing him down and getting him all pulled up and put out. And it was a great scene. But yeah, that whole bit of him getting back up and going back upstairs, on the spur of the moment, unscripted, and it worked really well, less like because otherwise he would have just cut out at the bottom of the stairs. So he liked how he kind of came back up and then passed out mid-flight. So it worked great for the film. I didn't like doing it on the moment because that wasn't part of the scene and that wasn't scripted. It just kind of, and we got away with it, and everybody was safe and fine. It's just one of those things where, like, fires one of those. Just the envelope's so tight, so really just narrow margins on those things. Sometimes, like, you don't want to go outside that, and he did. So I was like, all right, I didn't know, I had no idea what he's doing, but he was comfortable and he wasn't tapping out, so I let him go. But being the safety guy in charge of him, I had every right, and nobody would have blinked an eye. I would have just grabbed him and hosed him out right there on the spot.
All right. Well, I have to say thank you for joining us. We appreciate you being on the channel to talk Scream, to talk about stunt work and everything else that we discussed today. I really appreciate it. Thank you again.
Thank you, guys. It's such a pleasure. These are so fun, right? We had a great time on this.
Yeah.
I really like podcasts are fun. I love the Scream Nation, as I affectionately call everybody, right? Super, super fans and horror in general, because that's where I started. I remember watching black and white horror with my dad. I was 4, 5, 6, whatever. So I'm a horror fan too. People, and I think, and a lot of the Scream Nation and the horror fans know that. I am also a horror fan. All right, hey, real quick question for you guys, and hijack. Favorite horror movie?
Go ahead, Jen.
So I have 2 franchises that I keep at number 1, and it's Nightmare on Elm Street, the original, and Scream 1.
All right.
I just had this question come from a subscriber the other day, and it's very hard to answer it because there's so many really good quality films out there. So there's Jaws, there's The Thing, there's Nightmare on Elm Street, there's Scream, right? So it depends on how I feel, but if I have to look at the overall presentation of it, like score, cinematography, the emotion that it evokes from you, I would probably have to go with Jaws.
Yeah, boy, that's a good answer. Man, I hated that movie that summer. Great film. I'm gonna go with the original Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Oh, yes. Rest in peace, Rico Browning, too.
Yeah, not just a few weeks ago. I'm really, and that's been my all-time favorite horror movie. And I think it's just because of the throwback of just me being a child and just being gross with that. I loved watching the creature and that whole thing. And so it's unfortunate that I didn't get a chance to meet him and obviously get him to sign some stuff before he passed. But now I'm gonna be a Creature from the Black Lagoon fan and go find his autograph and some really cool memorabilia from hopefully some original stuff.
We were fortunate enough to meet him at Monster Mania a few years ago. I have the fossil hand signed by him. He's very nice.
Nice piece. Okay, you can send that over. Appreciate you.
Creature from the Black Lagoon is actually one of the earlier horror films that we introduced to our kids. So our youngest son, that's one of his favorite movies too. So we always start them out with the black and white movies to ease them in. And that was one of the first films. And the stunt work on that is just amazing. The underwater stunt work with that.
Yeah, that was, you gotta remember, well, it's still done today, but all that's back then, all practical. All practical, all real deal. no cheating on that one.
Yep.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Well, cool, guys. Thank you again so much for having me on. I had such a great time with you, and the questions and everything.
Yeah.
You got a great guest, and keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you. We hope to see you at Monster Mania again soon.
Let's see, Monster Mania, maybe. So here's what I can tell you for August of this year is I think I'll be down back in my home state, which is Texas. I'm going to be down there doing the horror.
Texas.
No, not the Fright Night. The horror film fest. I think it's down in Houston.
Oh, all right, nice.
Okay.
I've got that on the books, and there's a couple in front of it, but I hadn't. I got my gag order on from the promoters until they kicked me out, put me out there in front of them, and they like to do that. And that's and I love my promoters. I really promote. I do a lot of self-promoting for whatever con has me in. I get on that bandwagon. I push it. I want those guys to be super successful. And if they're successful, the fans get a great con, and the fans are happy. I'm happy, and so that's. I'm very proactive once I get signed on, so I'm very aggressive about that.
Yeah, it's the best genre in all of Hollywood, right? Because we all interact with each other, and it's just amazing.
Yeah, you're spot on. There's not another genre, I think, in the film business that is like horror, because it's it crosses all borders, right? It's international, and people are just into horror, and they're always sweet people. I mean, the people are so cool. Horror fans are really cool people.
Yeah.
Because they just love horror for being whatever that driver is. And Wes one time phrased it is that, horror films and people that are into horror, it's a safe place for them to be them and to play. This is paraphrasing. But it allows them to be them. And everybody else is just as weird and as wacky and as passionate about people that love horror, right?
Yep.
So, and when you go to the cons like we do collectively, you see that. I mean, and it's generational, right?
Yeah.
I started on black and white. You got your kids on black and white.
Mm-hmm.
I remember being in the booth and signing a 3-year-old pair of shoes as Ghostface. I'm telling the mom, I'm like, please tell me she has not seen this. It's not 3-year-old friendly. She goes, no, I'll probably she's 7. I'm like, 17, As much as I love horror, there's still some horror movies. It's just like, no, kids don't need to see that. Let them be kids.
Yeah. See, Jen, I told you. I told you.
Sorry to trump you on that one.
Our 13-year-old daughter, her favorite franchise is Scream, and she can recite the movies word for word.
Love that. Yeah, I've had, like I said, it's generational now, right? So,
Yeah.
And your kids, and at the conventions, when you guys see it, you're dealing with, at least for the Scream franchise, I'm dealing with 3 generations. I get a lot of people telling me that I wrecked their, I gave them nightmares in their high school, And so now I have mom yelling at me because their daughter had nightmares in high school because of that movie. And now here they are with mom and grandma and the kid, and here we are talking Scream stuff, and I'm talking this stuff. So
Yeah.
It's cool. It's so fun. I really appreciate it. I don't take it for granted at all.
I mean, the first Scream came out the year I graduated high school. So,
Right.
and now I have kids in high school that watch it. So it lives on.
Exactly. Isn't that great? And not only that, but I mean, the franchise is alive and well. So we shot it in '95. So when we shot that sucker, released it in '96.
Yes.
And started writing the number 2 in '96, '97. And so, yeah, here we are, 27 years later? 26 years later?
Yeah.
And still rocking. So, and number 7 is going to be on the way. Hopefully, we all get to come back in a year, and we'll chat about number 7.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Maybe if I'm so blessed, the powers that be that'll listen to me again, because apparently they did. Go in there and be a cameo or something crazy. That'd be fun.
Yeah, that would be nice. So everybody watching this, make sure that you tweet at Radio Silence asking for a cameo.
I followed them, so I'll actually just drop my own. I'm like, hey guys, put me in the movie. Put me in the movie. Put me as the original old guy Ghostface, so I can have a walker, you know, a butter knife.
They can have you and Roger Jackson sitting at a coffee table, just having a drink or something like
Me and Rod can sit down and have coffee and talk about movies.
that.
It'll be good to run into Roger because I haven't met him or seen him, I should say, probably since the first night of shooting. And we crossed each other's signatures all the time because of the conventions. But I haven't seen Roger in 20 plus years. So
Wow.
Oh.
yeah, I look forward to crossing his path. And I'm wishing him much success. I mean, he's crushing it. It always has and always will. But I'm always so glad that he's back because he's stayed with Scream franchise all these years. I mean, he's the guy. You know, as much as I can motivate, you know, he's the common thread through it all. Him and Kevin have been the whole way. So
Yeah.
it's really cool that that bloodline is still there. And for me, I look back so fondly with my time with Wes and those guys is that's the bloodline. That's the common tie. That takes, you know, because they're direct lineage to Wes also. So they carry that all the way through the franchise, even if it's on a subliminal, subconscious level.
Yeah. So fingers crossed, maybe we get to see you in the next one and a cameo. We get to see Nev come back.
Yeah. They I was real quick. Didn't you like how they rode around her real quick? That was
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, man, that was quick there.
Yeah.
We're gonna do this. Oh, I got this right. It was about one line. Wow, nice. That's a good attack.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's. I did miss her presence in the film, right?
Yes.
I missed
Yeah.
not her face.
Yeah, even if she's just in it for a couple of minutes, you feel like you need to have her there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'd be nice to have that.
Mhm.
I would have taken an after credits phone call to her.
Yeah.
Just pay her
something.
for the phone call, give her a lot of money for that to set up the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see. The door's open. I mean, you can see how they wrapped up 6 to segue into 7. Who knows where they're going to be in 7?
Yeah.
I think we should probably shoot a tropical island. I think that'd be a good location.
Yeah, that would be.
Interesting.
Yeah, I wonder if they stay. Yeah, I wonder if they stay in New York or they go back to Woodsboro. I guess we'll find.
We'll find out. You know, maybe they're all maybe they go to Cincinnati. Who knows? Florida. We'll go to Miami. There we go.
We'll have Ghostface running around in Bermuda shorts.
Exactly. With combat boots and, you know, with suntan lotion. Anyways, guys, I really thank you again so much for having me on. We had such a great time.
Oh,
And we
yeah.
didn't get to
Yeah,
some
thank you.
time. We'll definitely come back at number 7 and have a recap, and we'll talk all about that again. Peace. I love you. Be safe, everybody.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.
Thank you.